Okay, so I know I've been sending you and bombarding you all weekend long. Did you see Asus sent out the ROG Ally X to social media influencers earlier this past
I
weekend?
did. Indeed, I did. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the Fox got his hands on it.
Hmm.
Nerd Nest and like the go tos of kind of the handheld space, right? So, okay, let me tell you one of the things, and I was talking to in our chat and stuff like that. Let me pick your brain a little bit because I haven't really gotten a chance to speak with you. What do you think of Asus sending kind of this handheld out a month prior to release? I mean, it's to me that's kind of I wasn't expecting that.
So I see where you're going with this, sir. And
What?
I will first and foremost,
Sir,
I
I
will first and
promise you I'm not
foremost,
going anywhere, sir.
hold on. First and foremost, I will say all the slander, we leave that on social. On this here channel, on this here channel, if you hear me be critical or you hear me speak of anything beyond my normal gregarious jovial self, I
Mhm.
mean it because of my perch from the aspects that I see it, right?
Absolutely.
With that said, with that said, I see that what they're trying to do is they're trying to put their best foot forward, right? They're trying to say, hey, this product is something worth your time, worth your effort, right? Ooh, I see the great Xbox era in the chat. Good day, sirs. Good day.
How you doing?
I'm happy to see you guys are here and all the other great, wonderful people in here. So I think what they're really trying to do, Asus is trying to turn the page on the perception that's building of them in the community, right? Because they had a very, very, very public, not flogging, but warning label put on their forehead, right? And
Rightfully deserved, by the way.
these moves that you see them making are them turning the page, right? Or trying to turn the page, right? Now, what I will say to that is the hardware good? Remains to be seen. It looks good on paper, right? It looks good on paper. I have some qualms. We can get into that if you want to, but I won't stop anybody who chooses to buy one. I don't think that it's a bad idea. I will, though, caveat that part by saying make sure you have a warranty that's not theirs, because I still don't trust them until I start hearing RMAs that are successfully dealt with in the proper way. They can give you more RMA, doesn't mean the RMA is actually still useful. They can give you a lengthy return policy, right? But the length of their return policy was never what was in question. It was whether it's a year or a month. When you go to use it, they don't honor it the way they should. And we don't have any kind of evidence moving forward that flywheel has changed. So in the short term, yeah, hardware looks good. I have some qualms, but then again, I like some others in our community, we drink deep of these handhelds, so giving me the radio hits won't impress me. Doesn't mean it's not impressive. It won't impress me, right? That's like saying, let's literally, and maybe that's a little snobbish of me, hear me clearly. That's like me saying, hey, I have a 4090 liquid cooled right here. If you show me a 3060 and you say, look at that graphics, I'll be like, it's all right. Doesn't mean it's not amazing. I'm just used to it, right? I see what they have on offer. I have many handhelds that are better right now that were purchased years ago. So to me, this is not a needle mover. Doesn't mean it's not great, but we shall see. It remains to be seen how they rehabilitate their perception in the community.
Yeah,
Make sense?
I think, yeah, 100%. And I think that that's fair, everything that you said. And even more so, one of the things that I'm kind of, that I'm seeing across the board is that unanimously, they can't, the individuals making videos on this device can't go into the details of it.
Yes.
Asus themselves have said you can talk about the software, the Armory Crate update, you can talk about the hardware, but you can't talk about performance yet. So
yes,
and I understand why.
But to be fair on that, and that ideally people could give them smoke on that. And you know me, I'm critical of that company.
Right.
But to me, I will say until that 1.0 release comes out, it's unfair to judge it like that, because
Right.
the firmware is still moving and shaking. They're still probably yelling at AMD for a new revision of the driver set.
Right.
They're hoping to squeeze as much performance out of it as they possibly can. Now, when it hits your hand, Mr. John Wolf, and it doesn't meet that standard, then all the smoke is deserved. Until that time, though, they are allowed to keep it under wraps. They are allowed to, work on it until it's done.
Right. And again, honestly, it wasn't coming into here to boast or to say anything other than it's in the hands of social media influencers. Guys, go out there. There's a lot of coverage. They're talking about the hardware. It's looking promising. Okay, from what these individuals are saying, the hardware feels solid. It looks like it's a definite. The Fox was talking about it. He was saying that to him, it's an engineering marvel. Okay.
So real quick, let me address Dr. Dry Rub. Love that name, by the way, sir. In the chat, he says, but we all know the performance will be like 5 to 8% more. That is not necessarily the case, because the underlying architecture has not changed one iota. That's one of the problems I have. So when you go from 6500 mega transfers to 7500 mega transfers, you're getting stability, you're getting bandwidth. So like stuttery crashes will happen less, but your performance profile won't change at all, because it's still the exact same Z1 Extreme, which is a bit of smoke that I have for them. I wanted them to tune it better. I wanted them to give me a 1.5 processor. They didn't do that, right? So that's one of the smoke that I have for them. Like even the Steam Deck tweaked their process a little bit, so they gave you a little bit more performance in the chipset. This does not do that. Fundamentally, the CPU and GPU are exactly the same. You get more RAM and faster RAM. That's what you get.
Right. It looks like at the end of the day, what it might end up being is, if you want a better ROG Ally, that's what you're going to get here. That's what it's looking like. And like
it is still the ROG Ally, but it's a buttoned up, better ROG Ally. Yes.
Right. So with that said, Kay, I want to welcome everyone to episode 40 of Gamers Playground. 40 episodes in, Kay. I can't believe it. I feel like if we started literally the other day. Seriously.
It feels that way. Yes.
I know that last week you were kind of on the shelf because you had a couple of procedures done, some dental work done.
Boy.
I want to shout out MJ Dark for stepping in and filling your shoes. He did a great job. He helped me with more than half of the show. I really appreciate his time. He didn't need to do that, and I really appreciate him jumping on and covering for us, and that was huge. And last week's show, probably the lowest ratings of all time, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
That is not true, bro. Calm down. No, I will also reiterate what you just said, and also throw flowers at you, sir, because you jumped in here like a champ without me. And what we've been doing, like you said, we've been doing this show together since day one. First time you had to do it by yourself. You did it by yourself. You did it with Mr. MJ Dark. Y'all pulled it off like a champ. I enjoyed myself. I couldn't speak. I tweeted a few. I slid in the chat and messaged a few slanderous things. I could barely open the jaws at that moment. But
we
yes,
welcome
I
the
appreciate
slander.
y'all.
Always welcome the slander. And of course, just and I caveat this with saying, for anyone in the community, look, we the slander that we have on the show for any company is just, that's what it is. It's fun banter. We love our companies across the board, but sometimes we just like to slander them for good fun and for conversation. You know what I'm saying? But Kay, we're officially on episode 40. This episode,
Indeed.
I saw Xbox Era in there kind of saying, I'm sad for the death of VR. I know that I kind of made the thumbnail to seem that way, but in reality, I want to talk about what's happening in the VR space, because we both are VR owners, and I want to level set and really see after all these companies, what they're doing and how they're shaking and moving. I really want to have a conversation of how we feel that VR is going to go forward.
Sure.
And with that said, okay, let's jump on a couple of quick topics that we have, and then we'll get to the VR talk. So, okay, let me ask you something. So, what's the future of PC handhelds, right? We talk about ARM. on our private DMs. We talk about Xbox releasing a handheld soon, all that good stuff. But the reality, like you were just talking about the Asus ROG Ally, how you would have liked the 1.5 upgrade on the processor, stuff like that. It looks like AMD again is kind of putting their foot forward and leading the charge here with what's next for mobile GPUs, right? So have you heard anything of this 8090M mobile chip coming out?
Yeah. So the 8090M mobile chip, and and that's the GPU that is the GPU that they're going to be adding to Hawk Point, right?
Yes.
Which you know, and we've heard some interesting things about Hawk Point. You know, a lot of interesting updates that may come from Hawk Point. I will say that it's not ready for prime time yet, from what I hear. But even in its debilitated state, we should see some very, very interesting benefits from it, right? But because it's not ready for prime time yet, I'm not ready to speak on it. I want to see what they do with it and all that. This is excellent, man. You know, I will say I appreciate, even though I have slander for AMD, you know, I appreciate their continued effort in this space, because whether people like it or not, they are the only game in town right now. Right?
Yes,
there are others that are trying to come into the space and do some things, right? Freaking Brad, bro, don't do that, man. Don't do that. That thing has infiltrated everything. It's not infiltrating our show. Stop,
dude. Check this out. So I had to put that up there. But seriously speaking, how is it that people are moving so fast with this thing? I literally saw on Saturday. I'm out with the family. I saw a bumper sticker of the Hawk Tuah, and I'm like, what is going on here? How are people moving this fast?
So my wife likes to deal in memes. She's the meme dealer in the family. I'm not as much of a meme dealer as she is. And supposedly that has been out for a while, but it didn't catch fire until recently. So people were waiting for it to catch fire in order to capitalize. So that's probably why you've seen all the merchandise already built for it. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I've seen hockey jerseys. I've seen bumper stickers this weekend. I'm like, what is going on here?
I've heard country songs. I've seen her as a superhero. Let's move on, shall we? Let's move forward. Let's move forward.
I mean, last week I kind of cut the show short. We're supposed to have a Cammy cosplay special, but we're gonna let
there will be none of that.
But I promise we're supposed to finish it tonight.
Well, you can finish that on the John Wolf channel. You can do that.
Well, I tried, folks. So go ahead, Kay. What were you saying about the 8090M?
So all I'm saying is I appreciate AMD. Like, I give them smoke because their drivers are never up to speed. They sometimes let things languish, things like that. But they're still pushing this space forward, right? That's what they're doing. They're pushing this space forward. Intel is kind of kicking in the background. They'll get there eventually. Shout out to the man Don Otaku. What's going on, brother?
Dude, he did great.
He's a great member. Great member. Yes.
GCP this weekend. I loved his takes. Don Otaku,
he represented the Nintendo contingency quite well. He did. Yep, absolutely. Shout out to you. So on the Hawk Point and the 890M, you know, it's great that they are moving the ball forward, right? It is, right? I expect them to move the ball forward, and they're definitely moving the ball forward. It is good to see. You know, what I would like AMD to do a bit more of is let the content speak instead of coming out and going, we're so fast. Because the minute you do that, now people start looking at you and start throwing you through the synthetic and real life benchmarks, and it always falls just short of your boasting. You're the only game in town. Focus, right? Yeah. Focus. I'm excited to see where these devices, these chips end up in, right? There's a lot of moving and shaking, you know, in this space, and by and large, the bulk of the situation, with the exception of Intel entering the space recently, is AMD. So salute to them. You know, I would say if these things excite you, don't expect to see these in real machines that you can buy until maybe a year and a half from now, like summer next year. And
I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to be this fall. Wow.
No, I don't think this fall, because well, okay. So if I'm not mistaken, and we have a lot of intelligent people in the chat here, Hawk Point is going to be included with this. So usually how the SoCs work, system on chips work, You get your processor and your GPU in one, and they call it an APU, right? And for a long time now, the combination has been 7840U with a 780M, right?
Right,
And you see the
right.
780M on the screen.
Mhm.
Then they recently updated the 7840U to the 8840U, which gives you to about a 10 to 15% performance boost over last year's model. And if we're doing this quick tech lesson, and I always say it this way, forgive me, the Z1 Extreme is actually a cut down version of the 7840U.
That is a
right?
fact. Yep.
Yes. So they're always the same pairing. This will be the first time they pair new chipset, new processor with new graphics engine, right? So I expect a lot more performance, and it looks like they're delivering that. But there are certain parts of the Hawk Point right now that don't seem to be ready for prime time, and I'll just leave it at that. And because of that, I don't foresee it, like, unless they fix it soon, which, hey, maybe they could, but it has some components that are still stuck in the past that they're trying to work out.
And very interesting. I mean, you kind of educated me there on what's happening, because I was all gun ho that that AMD was moving forward as soon as possible with this stuff.
See, if I would say if all these third party developers, all these third party hardware vendors are smart, they'll wait until the Steam Deck 2 drops before they drop anything like this.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because that Valve, I mean, with what they did with the Steam Deck, they kind of set the precedent. So I think you're right with that they should, for their own good, and also to see there's something wrong with waiting to see kind of what the main player's going to do, and then saying, okay, that was a good decision, let's move forward with it, because I mean, you want to put yourself in the best possible light, so you don't want to be at a disadvantage.
So one last thing I will say on this topic, though, if you are watching this show and you're handheld curious and you're like, hey man, I've been thinking about getting a handheld, what should I get? If you are a person who's capable, like you are intermediate with PC usage and whatnot, I say it's still a great time to buy something, right? I would go forth and get something interesting. I never advocate for you to get the first version of any new piece of hardware, right? So when the 890M shows up, you will get diminishing returns for at least 6 months to a year, because that, like smoke I was delivering before, AMD does not optimize their driver set as well as they should. So for a long time, you don't get the benefits of that new performance until they optimize.
Is Flood in here? Because he's not gonna like that we said that. Let me check.
He knows. He knows what I'm saying.
He's not here.
He knows that what I'm saying is true, right? But
yeah.
So what I would say is, think of this like the iPhone OG, or the original iPhone to the series, to the iPhone S model, right? Wait until it has some revisions, wait until there's a little bit of time has passed, some updates have been done, some drivers have been put in place, then you see that 30% uplift, then you buy in, and by then whatever handheld you're using now becomes a little long of the tooth, and it warrants that upgrade. You don't need to be there day one. So
I agree.
For people who are right now today still curious, I advocate to this very day, if you're not really hugely into mobile gaming, and this can still be your avenue into getting a Steam enabled device, right? And Steam, you don't always have to be about the speeds and feeds. It's not always about the megapixels and the high refresh rates, right? It could just be to be able to get your hands on Steam Next Fest games, demos that you would not otherwise get your hands on. And guess what? The OG ROG Ally is cheap as dirt right now, and it can do everything you need it done. Put it on a docking station, right?
Yeah, just
cheap
so
as
that
hell. You can get it for $200-$300.
Yeah,
at this point.
Well, just for our listeners and our viewers to know, right now GameStop has the 64 gig LCD Steam Deck model for $278.99. It's never been cheaper to get into handheld gaming, into handheld PC
and
gaming.
let me tell you, if you think that the LCD Steam Deck model is a slouch,
nope.
I happen to play a demo of an unoptimized version of Flintlock on my Steam Deck, my OG Steam Deck, and you will be stunned at the results. Like stunned. I'm just like, wow, like what is going on? What magic juju do they add to this thing to just make it just so damn good to this very day?
I don't know, but what I want to know is where do these Nintendo guys buy their milk at? Because apparently they're putting something in it, right? Because Darutaku and MJ Dark, it's kind of like they're the same person. They must be drinking from the same
Well,
grocery
okay,
store.
so if you really want me to put, if you want, because I was a psych minor in college, right? If you really want me to put my psychology hat on, I will tell you real quick, okay? When you buy something, right, whether it's good or it's bad, you become the champion of that thing. That's why I call it CEG.
Ooh. Oh, I see what
console emotional gamer.
I see what we're doing here. Hey, Everborn's not here to defend himself, so I'm gonna move
I didn't
on.
say I didn't say anything about Everborn. I'm just saying I invented a new thing called CEG, just like he invented, big picture mode.
I got you. So Don, we're just pulling your chain, brother. So what's this called?
With you.
Yeah. So what's this called? So okay. One of the things that like I heard a conversation this weekend on one of the podcasts, right? And I thought it was very good. Kind of like what they were talking about, because kind of like where we're at with these gaming handhelds, and just looking into the future. We know how fast technology moves, and it's kind of like you get a handheld, and it's not that you need to upgrade every single year or upgrade every single 6 months. I mean, if you're an enthusiast and you want to do that, by all means, and you have the cash flow to do that, do it. But the thing is that, like, for example, there's this, I feel like this is just me. I feel like there's this race, right, that's going on between all of these manufacturers, where like Apple kind of, what Apple did with the M1 chip is something that, in my opinion, they were like a year or two ahead of everyone, trying to balance performance with battery, right? Trying to optimize that, right? And the thing is that these x86 devices, right? I just think that we're not there yet. I don't know how much further we need to go.
Can I defend x86 and give Apple a little bit of smoke?
Sure,
just a little bit, because this is what I've been doing, right?
Of course.
So I think people give Apple undue credit in this realm. Why do I think that? They go, oh, they're ahead of everybody else, right? They're ahead of everybody else. Yes, they were, right? But even today, right now, imagine when you compare that I forget the name of the chip, the Elite chip that Qualcomm came out with, right?
Oh,
if you compare that, that ARM chip that is now the Windows ARM chip, right?
Yep.
If you compare that to the Apple variant, it throws blows with the Apple chip, right? But what does it not do well? Gaming performance. What does no one ever do on an Apple device?
It's the Snapdragon X Elite, by the way.
There you go. What does no one do on an Apple desktop? Game. So as long as you don't add the gaming metrics to it, they're blowing everyone away. But the minute you add the gaming metrics, now all of a sudden they are behind the damn 8-ball.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like they and this is not to give them smoke exactly, because they did identify the fact that yes, in normal everyday workloads, what 90% of the population do, mobile chipset, right? The mobile framework can work better than the x86 framework because it has less overhead and it requires less overheating and all of this, and you can do a lot more with those chips. So they implemented it early, but they don't have to worry about the monster crushing soul that is gaming on their hardware. So they just kind of went full bore and they get all the flowers. The minute you throw a game on that thing, it's ridiculous. It does not hold up. So I don't want to give them full flowers, because you want to impress me, an old Eddie Murphy joke, you want to impress me, play a game better than the other guy. And to this day, my handheld is still a better gaming device than an Apple gaming device is. So
that is true. I mean, you do bring up a good point there. And the problem is that, like, I just feel like there's obviously this dance that's happening, right? That people want the most battery possible, because we're gamers. We want, the most battery possible, but we also want the performance. There's a balance there, and I don't know what the right combination is, but I think that these companies are trying to figure it out as we go. And I think that with each iteration, we're starting to see, we're starting to see that improvement is being made. And if you think about it, this this is really in still in its infancy. We're moving now
Absolutely.
to baby stage. You know what I'm saying? So
So
I think that we're moving
let me speak one
in a
bit.
good progression here.
Let me speak one bit on that battery point for a moment, right? And this is not shaded at Asus. I know it may sound like it, but honestly, it is not, right? They did what they had to do in that battery round because that was their number one criticism that was given to them, right? But what you want, right? What you want, and here I will give Apple credit, right? What you want is what Apple does, right? If you compare an Apple device to an AMD device, an Apple device to a Samsung device, for example, and even that has changed, but for a while there, right? A Samsung will put the equivalent of an 80-watt battery in their phone, right? And then Apple will put half of that in their phone. And guess what? You'll run the same website, you'll run stress tests for hours, and the Apple device would outlast the Asus one every time. Why is that? Why? Because they spend a lot of time optimizing that chip for performance and making sure that it doesn't overheat and doesn't overuse resources, right? Their operating system, fundamentally at the operating system level, they make sure it sips and uses every piece of power that it's given way better than, for a while, and now it's more even, the Android variant. And in this current scenario, we find ourselves in handheld gaming. It's the same thing, right? Asus will throw a bigger battery at you and a bigger battery at you. Great. But like I said to you before, you don't need jet fuel to drive to a grocery store. You need a better engine, right? And if the engine is not good enough, your solution should not be to make your gas tank bigger. It should be to fix your engine, right? Because in a perfect world, you can have a thin, small, nice device that doesn't make your arm hurt after a while, right? Because people complain that the Steam Deck's too weighty, it makes your arms hurt, and that's not as bad as some of the devices with bigger batteries, right? If you optimize your battery well, optimize your operating system and all of that well, right, you get so much more longevity. And then when you put an 80-watt battery in, that thing lasts a week and not 3 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I get.
We should always strive for that optimization first, the battery second, because that battery is just a stopgap to a bigger problem, which is optimizing OS your OS and your firmware to perform at the peak of its performance and not waste like resources.
Yeah, I get that. I'm more on the side of I want both. But I understand what you're saying. But I also understand that there's an appetite, especially us in the United States. I want to say, right, that this is a unique problem over here. Bigger is better. But
that's not necessarily true, because that bigger is better got a lot of people fat over here and dying. I'm just saying.
Right, but we still complain if they bring us a small steak. Even if one thing
you will learn is people don't know what's good for them.
Right.
If you ask them, they'll say bigger, better, bigger, better. And at the end of the day, they will die at 50 when the Europeans are dying at 90 because they don't eat bigger.
and those are facts. But on my deathbed, I'm still going to ask for a bigger steak because that's just the way it is. And the reason why we have, I think, that kind of perception is because, again, in understanding kind of like everything that you put on the table, companies, the advertising, we and I'm guilty of it. I'm number one pay pig. I'm number one. I'll you show me something.
Go ahead,
pretty.
say it.
So
say
pay pig number one.
No, not. I wouldn't say pay pig. I would say CEG, console emotional gamer.
I mean, if that's what you want to call me, you can call me whatever you want. I just go with fact. The bottom line is that if I see something and I have the money for it, I'm gonna pay for it. So if a company throws something at you and it's a compelling offering, right? Like not to keep on kind of picking on Asus here, but kind of like what they're offering here, I think that they're allowed to say, we're not going to optimize this. We're just going to give you a bigger battery. And that's it. You see what I'm saying?
No, I get that. But the problem with that is, right, it's snake oil. You are not getting what they say you're getting. Because if it's not optimized, it will be diminishing returns. All it takes is a GPD or some other company to do what they should have done in the first place. So
Right.
what I mean by that is, so the ROG Ally X is out, right? 80-watt battery, performs great. Steam Deck 2 will not have an 80-hour battery, but I guarantee you it'll outlast the ROG Ally X.
Yeah,
and that's
100%.
not what you want, right? You want the ROG Ally X to have an 80-watt-hour battery and also be optimized.
Right, but again, what year are you talking about? You're talking about when is that releasing in 2026?
No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
I want it now.
You want it now. Yes, of course, but that's the American way, right?
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. If you want something with today's technology of where it is today, you kind of have to pick and choose which way you're going to go, right? And again, not trying to justify or say I don't want both, because of course I'm the consumer. I want them to give me the best possible product of all time, and that goes for any company. But as I'm sitting here today, I want something on my hands in the next month. I don't want to wait till 2026. I want it now. So if that's what you're going to offer, and this is the best we can do at the moment, I'll take it any day. That's fine.
Technically, it's not the best. This is why I get slandered to them. This is not the best they could do. It's the best they wanted to do. It's not the best they could do.
I agree.
Because there are many small bit players that are doing far better than this.
I agree with you there.
At a cheaper price.
I agree with you there. When it comes to certain things, there's no other player that has given you an 80-watt battery. That needs to be applauded. That cannot be shortchanged here. Another thing, they're giving you more. Yes, they're charging you more, but in my opinion, they're giving you more as well. It's not like they're not giving you anything. But again, it's at the end of the day, there's no right and there's no wrong answer. The right answer is for the consumer to decide, what am I looking at in front of me? Is this what I want or not? You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, whether it's Asus or it's MSI or Lenovo or whoever comes out in this space, it's up to the consumer to say, you know what, Kay, for me as a PC handheld connoisseur, I like what Lenovo offers, but the form factor is uncomfortable to me. So I will take the shortcomings of, let's say you decide to go with something else, I will take the shortcomings of this in order to be able to get what I need. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. See, and let me be clear here, right? I'm not saying that you are wrong in any shape or form, right? Let the consumer decide, and that is always the way, and that's always the way it should be. I'm just saying that on when you talk to me, and this is my SME. I'm the SME, subject matter expert here on this, right? When you talk to me, I will always speak to white papers. I will always speak to the technology of it, right? And I feel like people, because they know it works, they throw big numbers at people.
Absolutely.
Even though those big numbers shouldn't matter in the long run, and they get one over on you. Now, I'm not saying you specifically.
No.
I'm just saying in general, they get one over on you. So that's why here, when you're talking to me, I'll say, don't fall for that okie doke. Maybe this number is not as good as that number, but it matters more here or there. You know what I mean? That's why I always do that. Because at the end of the day, since these numbers are all whiz bang, but you don't, this is a very intricate puzzle they put together, right? It's like going to the gym and only working the arms and saying you're strong when your legs are really teeny tiny. It's an intricate dance they're doing. Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? Like even when we've had conversations, like we had Dark on our show one time, and we were messing around with him, and we had the debate about the whole, why isn't Starfield 60 frames on a normal console Xbox? There you go. They're bringing out a 60 frames patch, 6 to 7 months later. It's not, the thing is that, again, there's no right and wrong answer here. The bottom line is that when a decision is made at that time,
I told him why.
No,
he didn't believe me, but I was right. I had the digital receipts for it and everything.
But what I'm trying to say is that when a company makes a decision at that certain time that they announce something, I think that we need to take a look at the moment in time that we're at and see, kind of take a look at the whole picture and see why decisions were made. So it's at the end of the day, obviously the correct answer, if you really want to know the real answer, it's called time and money. The company will always do what is in their best interest, not what is in ours. It's always what's in their best interest, and then you
But
go
see,
from there.
what I will tell you though is, if you are the type of person that goes, look, I just want one device, that one device that I can use for a while, like that I don't have to worry about upgrading every year, I say wait. You know, 1080 Ti's don't come around very often, but they do. Right? Eventually, you get a 1080. I had a 1080 Ti for 8 years. I never needed to upgrade at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I sold it for more than I paid for it, right? Because that was a great, like capital G, great device. And many graphics cards came out after that, but I didn't even look at them because they weren't as good, or price to performance wasn't there like 1080 Ti was, right? Right now, these guys are all like itching for scraps. 10% of important performance, 15%, little by little, things you won't notice. If you have yourself an Ally OG right now, yeah, you may not like the battery life. Yeah, you may have to walk around with a battery pack. You have a plug with you wherever you go. If you want that Halo device, that device that will last you for some time, and you have patience, I say wait. It will come soon enough.
Probably right. So, okay, with that said, let's move on to the next subject. But first, we got a couple of super chats, sir. I'll let you read the first one from our good community member and our boy MJ Dart.
The great MJ Dart with a $5 super chat. Thank you for being here, good sir. He says, love this week's show. PDP PSVR 2 will be in the trash like Asus's warranty on the OG Ally and other PC parts. Ragoons getting schemed. 1x up. Oh man.
Oh, and I know.
See, that slander is not mine, it's his.
Hey, sir, everyone's allowed to feel how they want, but the bottom line is he got the ROG Ally also. So I'll read this one from Brad Word. That dude, thank you so much for being here. And I know that you're always tagging me and Kay Asante and sharing Kay, the new website that you're working on. I forgot to plug it, man.
Yes.
Go ahead and plug it real fast, because I mean, he shared that out, and we really appreciate it.
So in the background, this is what we're doing. We've been kind of buttoning up the processes a bit. There are certain things that we sometimes don't want. We can't get fully. We can't get all our thoughts out, or we want to talk about something that just does not line up with the day's news or the podcast or whatever. So we started the gamingcircle.com. So it's simple. You know, the Gaming Circle podcast. I think of the Gaming Circle as the overarching, where the gamers playground can live as well, and other shows and things that we may bring to bear in the future. So the gamingcircle.com, you go there, myself, Mr. Everborn Saga, Mr. John Wolf, we're in the about page. We are the main contributors of that site, but you may see contributions from other great creators in the industry that are around us. We're leaning on our friends, we're leaning on the great creators. You have something you want to say, you have free reign. Say what you want. We have a bunch of different ideas that we're putting out there. So come check us out. All the shows that will post there as well. So you'll be able to see the content we release. The video content will also be on the site. And then in the blogging section, we have good articles. Today was an awesome article by the one John Wolf, made me tear up after I was reading it. Go check it out. It's about Marvel versus Capcom collection and his excitement when he heard the news, and it flooded all the old wonderful memories. Y'all graybeards know what I'm talking about. All the wonderful memories of being a kid and seeing that game for the first time, and it coming back in a big way. Go read it. The man did a great job. I think he deserves a lot more credit than maybe people have not seen it. And while you're there, also check out my screed about how everyone should be playing Fading Afternoon, right? Give the Switch all the slander you want. It's the only console that actually has Fading Afternoon. Everybody else has to play it on PC. So check it out if you can, and check out thegamingcircle.com. Thank you very much. My plug is over.
Awesome. So yeah, guys, check that out, because me, Kay, and Everborn. If you want to find out a little bit more about us, we wrote kind of like our description for ourselves and stuff like that. Get to know us a little bit more, a little bit more personal. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you my my zodiac sign or anything like that, but we got Brad Word. Let me finish reading his super chat. 279 Canadian, and sir, the Panthers and the Oilers tonight, Game 7. I'm going to be watching that. Loving my new Ally. ROG is the future. Raccoons. There you go, man. I mean, they're out there. They're out there, and we got one more.
He had to put some emphasis on that. He had to put some Stankonia on it.
Oh, we got one more.
And the great Soil Tech, wonderful human being with a $2 super chat. He says, hit the like button. Thank you so much, Soil Tech. I appreciate you always showing your support. I appreciate you, sir. I will forever be in your debt. If it wasn't for that man, I wouldn't have had the most amazing time I did going to LA and, being able to meet all the amazing people I met and doing all that. Awesome human. So thank you, Soil Tech. Always appreciate you.
We got Web Dave out there.
The amazing Web Dave. He also says hit that like button. You should do as these intelligent individuals are saying, because they know what they're talking about. Thank you so much.
You know what I like about Web Dave? He's a fellow PS Portal owner. He knows what's up. He ain't like these fake ones out here saying that the thing is horrible or whatever. Hit up Web Dave if you want to know something about the PS Portal.
Can I tell you something about the PS Portal? I got a line on a damn good deal on a PS Portal. Right?
And why'd you send it down? What happened?
Here's the problem, right? And at the same time, right? They're like, it's a great deal. And I looked at it, and it is an undeniable deal, right? Then, of course, I was also hip to, at the same time, PS Play, which costs $13.96. And it gives you so much options to optimize the network for your specific network at your house. And then you can play it on your Windows machine, your Windows handheld machine, or you can play it on the deck. And it's so much like it is 1-to-1 how smooth it is. After playing that for a while, I'm like, unless they hack this thing really and they're able to really throw some interesting things on it, I cannot justify the $99 I was going to pay for it.
Wow, that's a heck of a deal. But let me tell you, I can't say I blame you. I think you missed out personally, but I can't say I blame you. I know that you have, not only do you have the handheld, I
have many handhelds, man.
But you also have but you also still have the Logitech device,
the G Cloud, right? Which also is absolutely amazing. Like it is because if you're holding handhelds, right? If you're holding a handheld for a long extended period of time, it's like holding a spoon for 5 hours. Eventually, the spoon gets heavy, right? Yeah. You want it to be as light as possible. The G Cloud is the best device for hanging out on a couch and playing remote play games. Yeah. It is light as a feather. Battery lasts for like 7 hours. I can't justify it.
I still think we'll have this conversation later, but I still think that for $99,
you still think I should pay the $99 and get that thing? Absolutely. I'm still thinking about it.
Absolutely. You're what I am. You're an enthusiast. You're a pay pig. Of course, you should have gotten it for $99.
You see, when you call me a pay pig, then I don't want to get it real bad because I ain't nobody pig, bro.
Dude, get off the high horse, sir. All right. So we got MJ Dark, $1.99. Thank you, sir, for your contribution. PS Portal is as dead as the ROG SD card. CCP up. And for those of you that don't know what CCP is, we kind of have a little running joke that CCP gamers kind of buy the 1X players of the world and the
you mean the better devices? I understand. Yeah,
the China collection, but we'll leave that there. That's more for private DM stuff. But
sure. Go ahead, continue. Next story.
Yeah, next story for sure. So, okay, let me ask you, man, because now I kind of saw this headline, and I started saying, this might not be good for us future 5090, 5080 buyers. So last week it was reported that Nvidia has literally become the world's most valuable company. Okay. So
not surprising.
The AI boom is here. They definitely benefited from it. It made their stock skyrocket to even past the solar system out there. So what I want to say is this. Oh man, we know that Nvidia has been kind of special with their pricing, especially with the 40 series. Realistically, man, I don't want to exaggerate and tell you, okay, we're going to be paying $5,000 for the 5090. This can't be good, right? This can't be good for potential GPU
I don't
buyers.
know about that. Like, I don't know about that. And you know why? Because I have a very complicated history with Nvidia. Okay. I have a complicated history with them. And what I mean by that, salute to the man, Ty Talks. Always good to see him. What the reason why I have a complicated history with this man, with the GeForce company, is that yes, they have a long history of the shady GPU prices, right? Mm. But they've also released a device that to this very day sits under my TV. I've owned it for 8 years, and it has given me more use than probably almost any tech device I own. And I'm talking about the Nvidia Shield. It updated so frequently until recently. I'd say maybe about 6 months ago is where I see it starting to get long in the tooth. That thing came out before the original Switch because it has the same Switch chipset. It came before the original Switch, and it's been updated like profusely. It's just crazy. No company does that. Whenever they have new optimizations, what do? They market it as a new product and they make you buy another one, right? These guys have held on to this old hardware forever. They've released a newer version, but then they give all the updates to the old version as well and gave you no reason to have to upgrade if you had the original version. They have done so right by the Shield that it's just nuts to me. Like it makes me always give them, there's a soft spot in my heart for them for as good as they've done with the Shield, right? It was their pet project. They were never looking to run the table in that way. The Shield is quietly one of the best devices they've ever released, like ever. It's amazing, right?
Can I push back a little bit on something?
Sure.
When you say that they have kind of updated in their older stuff, while I agree with you because the 30 series continues to be
updated. I'm talking about the non-GPU environment.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about the other device.
Gotcha.
But this is why I have a complicated relationship with them, because on the GPUs, they are craven and asshats, if you will, who do their best to give you dribs and drabs. And then, like that marketing thing that I always warn people about, people fall for the okie doke, and they know you need more VRAM, so they keep the normal card VRAM like inconspicuously low and favor the big expensive card, right? I know they do those practices. Now, to this specific topic, why I am not wholly convinced that it will be bad for gamers is this. Okay, it seems to me that for a while there, before the AI boom, right, their claim to fame was GPUs. And when your claim to fame is GPUs, you do whatever you can to squeeze as much blood from that stone.
It's called good business, right?
Yeah, it's business, right? But when all of a sudden, overnight, you are now the person that sells like AI chips, huge like enterprise level chips to like everybody, right? Like I have bought one of these guys' chips before, not for myself, obviously, because I can't afford it, but for the company that I work with, right? That I work for. And everyone, all the ones that come out and go, we have this AI thing. Yeah, they're all running Nvidia stuff, right? You hear Samsung does magic with their phones. They're running Nvidia enterprise level hardware, right? Anyone and everyone that has any kind of AI dreams that you hear them training AI models, the underlying hardware is Nvidia. So one check from Nvidia now is about $200K, right? So when they are making that much money per customer, now all of a sudden they don't need to squeeze blood from the GPU stone anymore, right? Maybe, and this is me being Pollyanna, because I like liking things. I like being positive. I know sometimes I'm not positive. I like being positive. So maybe when enterprise is filling their coffers as much as enterprise is filling their coffers now, so much so that they have like surpassed the biggest mountaintops and now are on the top of the pile, maybe they start treating the GPUs like the Nvidia Shield, because they also have a history with the Nvidia Shield, which is nothing but glowing. Like, show me an Nvidia Shield customer and I will show you a person who loves Nvidia. Because nobody who's owned an Nvidia Shield for any extended period of time has nothing but amazing things to say, because they don't leave anyone behind.
Okay.
And you don't have to pay extra for it, right? Now, their main business was GPUs. So in that realm, you need to pay more. you need to pay more. Next year, you need to pay more. Next year,
Yeah.
you need to pay more. But now they have Apple giving them 250K checks every few weeks, every few months, right? Now, the fear here, and I'll be a little technical for you, the fear here is they're iterating, making it better, making it better. And every time they make it better, the enterprise level customers buy in and buy more. At some point, those enterprise customers will be like, I'm good. This TV was going to last me 20 years. I don't think I need to buy a new TV. And then their position at the top of the pile may not be so solidified anymore. We're not there yet because they still keep releasing new stuff, and all these enterprise customers still keep buying in because we're on the cusp of AI, right? But at some point, we'll be AI saturated. All these huge companies will have so much infrastructure, they won't need more chips from you, at least not in the short term.
Understood.
Right? At that point, what do you become, Nvidia? Who knows? But for today, they are rich and fat off of those chip sales. So maybe their 5090 doesn't come in so crazy expensive because they're like, hey, throw these guys a bone. We rich anyway. We don't need that.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay, let me jump in here real fast, and I'm glad that you kept that, and I'm glad that you kept it positive because I'm gonna have an opposing view. When I would think, right, I'm trying to put my business hat on now. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you go back to this episode and you say, John, you were so wrong about this, and I will say I am so glad I was. When you become the richest company in the world, that sets a precedent. You want to stay there, okay? The shareholders now are going to put a lot of pressure on them to stay there. Doesn't matter why they got there. The bottom line is now we need to stay here. That's the way that I'm thinking as a shareholder, right? What the fear is that now, like you said, the same way that now maybe they'll shift their focus to kind of nickel and dime the AI users and buyers and kind of let go a little bit of the GPU side. I really doubt that they're going to do that, and now they're going to apply pressure to both because they know that they got both avenues, like with an iron fist. They rule with an iron fist. So what I'm thinking that could potentially happen here, which again I hope I'm wrong, is that what we'll see here, and that's why we've always talked about it on the show, Ken. I've always wanted to understand from a newer PC gamer perspective what the difference is between the companies, because I legitimately want to have choice. I legitimately enjoy competition. That's why I have felt adamantly about kind of the moves that Microsoft is making. I whether I'm right or wrong is that's regardless of that. My concern is always competition, because competition will always benefit the consumer, right? So what my fear here is that Nvidia now is not feeling the pressure by anyone in the GPU space, and now they have free reign to do as they please. So for example, this generation, let me just finish this and then you can go. So this generation, it was, we're gonna hide the DLSS upgrade to the 40 series, and the 30 series is locked out. What's next? What else are they going to do next? Like, to get you to jump to that 50 series? Obviously, they can say, hey, DLSS 4.0, it has all the bells and whistles, all this stuff. Some people might fall for the okie dokie. Like myself, I probably would, and I would upgrade, right? But the thing is that there's going to come a point where they're going to know that what they're offering is not enough. So what else are they going to hide? So that's my concern. And if they would still be up there in the top 5, top 10 richest companies, I would tell you I'm more on your side. But now that they're number one, now I'm scared more than ever for that.
So let me say this. Two things. One, these numbers are always obscure numbers. They're not like literal cash in hand, and they never last long, right? Apple was for a while, and then Microsoft beat them, and now Nvidia beat them. It'll last a week, tops 2 weeks. Who knows, right? It's not a thing you can bank on that. Like, they now have this iron throne, like in Game of Thrones, right? It's not that thing. And on the flip side, here's an interesting jux, which will bring us back to topic, right? And you'll see what I'm talking about here. In the world we live, right? Desktop PCs, right? Windows PCs used to rule the roost. They were the primary computing platform everywhere. And in that world, Microsoft got big and fat and ugly in that world, right? People started hating on them here and there. And then what happened? Today, if I asked you what the number one computing platform is, what will you say it is?
I would still think it's Windows, right?
No, it's phones.
Gotcha.
People use their phones for standard computing more than anything else. And
That's
because
true.
of that, Android is now the number one operating system. Right?
Gotcha.
Similarly, today's world, yeah, you're measuring your 4090 liquid cooled, and this person's got a 5090, and this person's got a 30 this and that. What is the thing that we have been talking about left and right? We talked about it early in this episode. Handhelds are all the rage. Who leads in handhelds?
Right now it's AMD.
Exactly. By the time Nvidia turns around and looks at their dominance on both reigns, the idea of that big fishbowl GPU style monster rig could be even more diminished than it is today, because it's a subset of a subset of a subset. As these handhelds get more console-like and normals can jump in, and they're optimized and optimized and optimized, and all these other players are in there, most people will not opt for the big dog machine. Most people will just get a handheld and keep it moving. And in that world, all of a sudden, Nvidia no longer has the clout anymore.
I get you.
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Right?
I do.
We can wake up one morning and they're now, and all of a sudden AMD becomes Android, the one that rules the roost, just by the nature everyone owns one.
I get it. Yeah, and I know that we had someone in the chat earlier say that since they got their handheld, they haven't really gamed on their PC anymore. So I mean, I know that's anecdotal, and you know,
I will tell you, as a 4090 owner, my pinky's in the air. You don't see it. I game far more on my A1 Pro and my Steam Deck because I just don't spend my day in my office behind the desk. Right? I content create here. I do lots of stuff here. I love my office, but more often than not, I'm on the go or I'm hanging out with the kids. And I like the handheld affords the ability to just game where I am. So more often than not, I'm on the handheld. While the 4090 is awesome and sitting here dormant, not being used. Right? And as the normals all get into the waters because they fix the driver potential issues and they button up Windows to make it more advantageous to use in a handheld, as all those optimizations eventually come, right? And you see more at Best Buy, and it's not just the Legion Go and the ROG Ally. Eventually, it'll be a plethora as these doors open wider and wider.
It'll be the ROG Ally X on July 22nd, baby. Go ahead.
There will come a day where you will walk into Best Buy and there'll be 15 options. And in that day, less and less people will start thinking about building their own monsters. There'll always be people like me.
Yeah.
Right? I will always want the biggest, baddest machine, even if I don't play it on it all the time. Right? There will always be me and Adrian Gray. We gonna be out there. You know what I'm saying? I feel you, brother. We gonna be out there. But eventually, as these handheld devices get really, really great, and let's be clear here, Nvidia could dip their toe in the water soon. They may be waiting for, just like they did with the Tegra X1 chip. They may be waiting for a Super Switch to come out, and then they release that variant to the consumer base, and now you have Nvidia-based handhelds. I would love that too.
That would be
but
cool,
I don't think they're looking there, right?
Yeah, I don't think so
right?
either.
Exactly. So eventually, even though they are kings of the desktop computing platform, no one will care.
And the funny thing is that, you know, I don't know how the contracts work, but maybe Nintendo has them on lockdown somehow. You know, maybe it's let us have it for a year before anybody else type thing.
It's not that. You can what's inside the Switch is the Tegra X1, but a variant of the Tegra X1, and that's an old chip. Like, it's at least 8 years old, right?
Gotcha.
And back in the day, funny enough, there are Surface devices that have Tegra X1 chips in it. There are laptops that have Tegra X1 chips in it. There used to be mini PCs that have Tegra X1 chip in it. They just clocked it differently for the Nintendo Switch, right? Even if Nintendo has a copyright on a specific variant of it, they can change that variant enough and release it to Gen Pop if they wanted to. It's just Nvidia don't see value in giving like cheap chips to these smaller handheld makers because they didn't see this market. Like, what was it? 2-3 months ago, there was a report saying, "Hey," they looked around and went, "Hey, we might want to get back into that market because they see it's growing now." You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
mean
No.
it's like, let's be fair, it is very niche right now.
Yes.
I do think, if we have this conversation again in 5 years, it's going to be a
Yeah.
completely different conversation. But
I
go
agree.
ahead, you want to
Yes.
answer
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, Drake Williams asks me, how often do I upgrade my PC? So it's funny. I had the same machine for about 10 years, literally 10 years. Now, during that 10-year cycle, what I tend to do when I buy a PC is, first and foremost, I buy what the wallet can handle at the time, but I always leave buffer room at the top and at the bottom, meaning I don't buy the lowest chip for that chipset. And I also don't buy the latest and greatest and the hottest in that chipset as well. So if I start feeling that it gets a little long in the tooth, upgrade becomes easy, a bit more RAM or a new CPU, and I get to keep all of my processors. So for all of my the fundamental accessories that make it up. So for about 10 years, I upgraded a little bit of RAM. I added a CPU after 4 or 5 years, and I just had the same fundamental machine the whole time for 10 years. That was my 1080 Ti, right? And then after that, during COVID, I built a 3080, right? But when I built the 3080, I didn't build it to where I wanted it to go because at the time, if y'all remember during COVID, all these things were super expensive. So like the 3080, you had to buy pre-built to get a good deal. So I ended up like building a not debilitated, but somewhat the system that I didn't want to get just so that I can have a bit more performance. And then 2 years after that, when chip prices and everything went back down, then I built like a no holds barred. I call it my goldfish build that has the 4090 in it. And with this device, with the 4090 and what I have now, unless something breaks, I think I'm gonna go about 10 more years with this thing because it
Nice.
is everything I need. It's got killer overhead. I can do anything and everything simply and easily. So I see no reason to upgrade. So
Nice.
that's how I tend to roll. Like, unless you really give me a reason, and I'm not talking about that marketing reason, like a real reason, I will stay with my stuff for as long as I can.
Companies keep giving me the marketing reason. I'll keep on going your way. So, okay, let's move on to the main topic, brother. Um, we I wanted to talk about
Hmm.
where we're at with VR in the VR space, because I think that we need to kind of level set here as a, not only for our show but as VR gamers. We both,
Hmm.
I own the PSVR 2, you own
Hmm.
various headsets, and
Hmm.
I kind of want to pick your brain about what's happening in the VR space, as well as kind of like what you kind of forecast that
Yeah.
that the VR space is going. There's many in the community, and there's a lot of chatter that VR is dead. Why don't
Yeah.
companies give
But
up on
see,
this? Yeah,
I
but
suspect, I suspect that those who say VR was dead never thought VR was alive in the first place.
no, right. But again, in kind of like seeing how some of these companies are moving, some of the
Hmm.
decisions they made,
Yeah.
um, poor, I guess, emphasis on VR on their devices, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
It's where we're at today, right? So let's start off with the two with the two companies that are kind of at the forefront here. Of course, you have the Apple Vision Pro, which released at an egregious price. Is the tech worth it? Yes. Is the price justified? I guess.
Uh,
But but
I would push back and say it may not be worth it, but we'll continue. Go ahead.
I mean, but at the time that people were reviewing it and going to test it, it was high praise for this thing, right? But at the same
Yes.
time, when the realities kind of set in and you're sitting there at a $3,500 price tag, it's kind of hard
Mm-hmm.
to sell that to your average
Mm-hmm.
Joe, right?
Yes.
And then of course we have Sony. They haven't come out and said this, but reports are indicating that PlayStation VR 2 is kind of on its deathbed. That
Yeah.
they've kind of pulled out of pause of trying to of trying to make it a focal point. You really didn't hear anything about it on in that weird what was it Klondike or what word were they using? I don't even remember the word. A Kanda, what panda? I forgot what word it was that they were using all over.
Kando.
Kando. There
Yes.
wasn't a PSVR in sight that I saw, right? So
Yeah.
so here's my question to you, right? With what's happening here, are companies realizing that this might not be so viable, and are we seeing just now that Meta's going to run away with this thing because no one else is interested? What do you think?
So here's the funny thing, and you already hit the nail on the head when you talked about and don't put Hargeet in there. He's been a hater of VR since day one. Forget about it,
brother.
Anyway,
All views are welcome on
Salute
this
to
show,
you.
sir.
Salute to Hargeet Chani for being here. No, look, the thing that is funny is VR has been in the background, alive and kicking for a long time, right? These two companies have not even held even a small iota of the market, but they are the big players in other markets. So as soon as they jumped in, everybody's like, "Oh, they're the leaders." The numbers don't support it. The numbers never supported it. Mm-hmm. Who owns the VR market is the person who still owns the VR market, which is Meta, right? Mm-hmm. And second to that is Valve with the Index, right? And then there's some bit players here and there, right? Am I sad that, like, I'll be honest with you, when Sony made overtures in that direction to look like they were going to be part of that equation, like in a big way, I was happy about that, because at the end of the day, if you have a main focus gaming brand wanting to make games, and they take this hardware and they push it forward, you can expect that there'd be more games in that department, right? And that would bring more games for all. But the problem that has always befallen console makers is what happened here, right? VR does not thrive or live in a closed ecosystem. It never has. That's why you saw Meta pivot real quick. When they first came out, their handhelds, their games could only be played on a Meta device, right? And people hacked that thing quickly. And the minute that they got angry about it, Meta pushed back against the consumer, and the consumer said, "Here and no further," a la Lord of the Rings. And then they went, "Oh, hack? Oh yeah, okay, I guess we'll deal with it." And ever since, it's been this fine dance where, yeah, you can buy it at the Meta store, but you can still play it on Steam hardware, and vice versa.
You just gave me like this visual of Zuckerberg with a beard. Thou shalt not pass,
Exactly. Right? Because what you will notice in the background is every headset that comes out benefits from other companies' efforts. They all stand on the backs of each other to get better and better and better. That's the reason why, since the Valve Index came out, you haven't seen another index from Valve. There's rumors and speculation that they're working on a new one, and it might be here soon. But because they don't need it, and we already know they don't need it, they want to see VR become a bigger player, so they keep adding ideas into the mix, right? And then once it's out there and everyone's using it and everybody loves it, they help other companies incorporate the same level of tech into their devices, right? And then when the index becomes old hat, what do? They iterate and make something new. The two companies that jumped in, that everybody was like, woohoo, they're new players in the water, they are not team players. They never have been. Historically, one loves to sell you the logo and charge an extra $100 per inch of that logo, and that's Apple. The other one likes to pretend that they're the only one that exists in a walled garden ecosystem. Both don't work when the hardware and the environment and the technical environment is not big enough. The only way you move forward is together in VR.
Yeah.
And everyone knows this. And because of this, let me finish up real quick. While I am sad to see, specifically, like Apple is not saying VR is dead. What they're doing is they're realizing what we told them in the first place. Stop the BS with the really ridiculous high level hardware, because, oh, by the way, the minute you release that, Quest 3 incorporated 99% of your tech with software into their $500 system, and now it's so good that you can almost not distinguish the difference between the Quest tech and the Apple tech.
There you go.
And that's the price difference, even though that thing is so good now, right? So you were never going to win, Apple, with that. And they've already come out and said they're going to stop making the big dog and come out with a cheaper version. So expect a $1,500 one soon, right? So they're probably going to still do that. What saddens me is PlayStation did not put enough backing onto this device. They should have. They should have. And then when they went, you know what, we're going to hedge our bets and we're going to let PC players do it. Oh, well, we engineered this thing in the wrong way. So all the actual tech that makes this thing worth using is on the PS5 hardware itself. And the screen is just a dumb device that doesn't do any of its own processing. So the minute you put it on a PC, now you have a piece of crap machine. Like all of the actual tech that makes this thing viable and useful, and your eye tracking and your foveated rendering and all the really whiz bang stuff. Yeah, that's all like engineered to run through the PS5. That is a dumb engineering use case if you were ever planning to bring it to PC. Because now no PC person worth their weight will buy that, because the Quest is sitting right there at $500 and it does everything without a cable. Right. And even connecting to PC, it does without a cable.
Right. And I think that Cygnus, I've left his comment up here because I think that he to me, this is the big one here. So the pricing is holding back VR, make it as cheap as controller and will take off. Not only that, right? There's a balance act here, because what I think that they're doing is Meta has the formula here, and I'm gonna tell you why more than anybody else. They're they're mixing the gaming stuff, which we're interested in, right? The people listening to the show, but they're also trying to get the exercise enthusiasts. They're also trying to get the teachers.
Bro,
trying to get
real quick. Speaking of exercise enthusiasts, let me tell you, he won't tell his own story, so I will tell his story for him. The number one person that should and could sell every Meta Quest he'll ever find is, shout out to the great Mr. Boomstick XL. The man has lost copious amounts of pounds using his Quest 3 solely for working out. He's in the best shape of his life.
Oh, man.
All because of the VR stuff. Right? But he doesn't really sell that. Go ahead.
Brother, let me tell you something. I thought MJ Dark, I love Nintendo. Don Otaka, you're going to take his title, man. I'm saying.
Oh, you don't know the Don?
Level, but
you don't know the Don?
You know what, though?
He is wrong. Don't say that. Don't say that.
I'm not.
Don't do that.
Listen.
Don't do that. They tried to sell us cardboard. They lost me when they tried to sell us cardboard. Get out of here with that.
Let me give my brother some love, okay? I'm not trying to say he's right on this, but if Nintendo brings out a VR thing that's not cardboard, they may have something. But we'll just leave it there.
What I will like. So let's give them a little bit of credit, right? They were the only one to come out with a 3D variation that was intuitive.
Yeah.
Right. Very intuitive, right? A 3D that really gave you 3D that without wearing glasses and all of this. In order for VR to move forward, like you say, John, and you're right, the formula. Oh, and we lost John. I don't know. Can y'all hear me? It looks like we lost John, and there it goes. It is now the isolated Kay Asante show. So here we go. John will join us momentarily. It looks like we lost his feed. Oh, that is so unfortunate. It is now the non-Ragoon show. No, I'm just kidding. He'll be with us in a moment. His connection probably just dropped. So I will say, in order for us to move VR forward, what needs to happen is they need to, like PlayStation, for example, needs to get out of their own way. They need to recognize that the idea, that old school idea of, oh, we have this walled garden, we sell you our box, and and when we sell you this box, now all of a sudden you'll be the one, you'll only buy from us. That is an antiquated system that only works when you have a large market. And PlayStation does not have a large market in VR. They just don't, right? So before they go to that walled garden place that they're so used to making money, they need to open it up. It should have been available on PC day one, right? They should have made it an option. What are you talking about? And they should have put more emphasis into their own platforms. They're showing right now that they themselves don't have faith in the hardware. And let me be honest, I love that hardware. I think that's amazing looking hardware, right? Why is it that the only game at the Summer Game Fest, at their state of play, which was, like, by all accounts relatively lackluster, right? Why is it that the only game that was awesome that everybody knows, which is Astrobot, they didn't make a VR mode for it, which is a game that started on VR, right? They themselves have shown that they have a lack of faith in their product. And because they have a lack of faith in their product, there's no way that anybody else would stand behind it. It's unfortunate, right? So this is why I think it's unfortunate. But let's be absolutely clear here, right? Those who are like, oh, VR is dead, are those who never thought VR was alive in the first place. VR has always been in its infancy, and it continues to be in its infancy. People like me who love VR headsets, right? I have an Index, I have a Quest 3, I used to have a Quest 2. I had a Vive, an HTC Vive, right? And I have the other headsets that are clear glass headsets, the ones that are not full VR but they're more AR, like your X Real glasses and things like that. I was excited for PlayStation to jump into the waters because PlayStation has the capability to really drive that gaming sensibility forward, right? And them now seemingly bowing out is kind of sad for the VR community, because that means we have to kind of continue to deal with only Quest. And here comes Mr. Wolf.
Hey.
How you doing, sir? The connection dropped?
Yeah, the CCP got me. I tried to the internet went down all of a sudden, router restarted, all that stuff. So
no worries, bro. No
anything that you were saying, the last thing I heard was that something about Nintendo. Was that where you were going?
Yeah. No, all I said was the Ragoons are life. Yeah, that's what I said. I said the Ragoons are life. Yeah.
There you go.
Now real quick, Infinite Umbra is saying here he's looking for a matured version of a VR personally. And as of now, nothing does it for him. I hear you. Trust me, sir, I hear you. But unfortunately, it's a chicken and egg type situation, right? Like I am an avid lover of the Tesla Model 3. I love my car, right? But those Model 3s would never have existed if the Model X and S did not exist. And that's way too rich for my blood, right?
Yeah.
So they had to get through that in order for it to be advantageous for the normals somewhat to get into the mix as well, right? And right now I feel like the Valve indexes, the big honking devices, those are the ones that are really ruling the roost. If you really want that next level experience, I suspect you're gonna have to wait for a little bit, right? So maybe check in with it every once in a while until one day you see that they've traversed that divide. In the short term though, the expensive ones have to show up and have to really make that tech viable, and then they shrink it down to more advantageous levels. The number one way I describe it is the Kinect, that big thing that sit in front of your TV, that had to exist before your iPhone could just use FaceTime to let you in. Because first it had to be big and honking and obtrusive, and once that technology was viable, then they shrunk it down and put it on your phone.
Okay,
if it wasn't big, it would never get to that new level. You were saying.
Yeah. Did you finish the point that I was trying to make on like the everyday Joe Schmo, how VR can kind of take off here? Okay, so and again, one of the things that like shocked me, right? Because we're 80s babies, me and you here, so we know what helped the VHS take off. Okay, and that was the adult industry. Okay, if you know what I mean, adult entertainment. When that came around for VR, automatically, because I kind of know what it did for VHS, I thought, wow, this thing, it's over. It's gonna take over. It's gonna blow up. But again, I think that sometimes for me, and I'm talking about myself.
So what he's saying is, y'all ain't rubbing one out to your VR sessions. Y'all need to rub more out for VR sessions.
Maybe it'll be more viable, right? But what I am saying is this. What I am saying is this. I think that what the challenges of VR, right? To me as a user of the PSVR 2, okay, sometimes I don't want to be wearing anything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about clothes here. I'm talking about something like, covering my face or whatever the case may be.
No, I get it. Okay? I get it. And even though that is one of the most comfortable headsets you can wear, you're still wearing a headset.
You're not in the mood. You know what I'm saying? And like you just want to sit back on your handheld, on your controller, and just play a game and just lose yourself.
Remember though, while I agree with you, these headsets, those headsets you're describing, you won't see today, because they're, first off, they're not for you. They're not for me, technically. They're not for Infinite Umbra. We came up in the you buy my box, I sell you my games world. We've spent our entire lives in that world. This is new tech that requires some growing pains for it to become advantageous, right? It's not for us. It is for my children. It is for my 5-year-old and my 7-year-old, who by the time they're 15 and 17, it'll just be contact lenses for them, right? For us, it's big honking devices. It's not for us, right? Well, it's for right now, it's for the people who see the future and are willing to pay top dollar for it today, so that future will eventually be contact lenses for our kids.
Right. Now, let me ask you this, right? Because I was kind of going somewhere with when I started talking about the VR and the everyday Joe Schmoes, because I would kind of wanted to lead us to the focal point of the topic, which is VR dead? Is it dying? Should it go away? Whatever the case may be. This is my question for you. Even with Apple kind of taking a backseat and saying, look, we're gonna rethink things, we'll recalibrate, we'll be back. And with PlayStation seemingly saying, please, PC space, save us from making this a complete failure. Even with that said,
and even that was a bad look on how they did that. But yes, continue. Yes,
absolutely. Yes. Even with those two things said, can we buy into the what's being said out there that VR is dead? Because I personally don't think so. I think the day that I will be on that camp is when Meta says, yeah, this thing's not taking off, we're done. Because they're the ones that are trying the hardest to own that space. So the day that I think that they take a back seat, then I would be worried. But right now, even with the two that we know of that are kind of going to step on the brakes here, I still think we're in the same place we were yesterday.
But that's exactly the point, right? And that's why anybody, and you're making a very good point, and that's why I'm saying anybody that tells you that VR is dead, we're not VR fans in the first place. Because if you are a VR fan, the only fan you can be of VR is a hardcore fan, because there are no other normal fans currently. The pool is too small. You either love it or you dislike it, right?
They're definitely not like Ragoons. There's more Ragoons than VR fans, so go ahead.
Yeah. But my point there is, if you have paid attention to VR for a time, you know that the waters are deep, but they're slow and they don't move. And if you look at the Steam survey of VR headsets, they haven't moved a needle at all, at all, and they will not move. Steam, MetaQuest owns the bulk of it because they're the most cost-effective headset, and at the high end, Valve Index still rules the roost. We were hoping, and by we I mean me. See, there's Flood. Have you ever put on a VR headset before, sir? I doubt it.
I love it. Keep on bringing the slander, guys. We really love it.
Yes. We were hoping that with Sony coming into the waters, they were going to push that thing forward, right? But they didn't. But it doesn't mean it's dead. It's exactly where it was before they joined.
Absolutely.
They are not mature in this. They have not been mature in this. They didn't even want to move VR forward. They just wanted to carve a small part for themselves where they can continue doing the you buy my box, I sell you my games thing. And that doesn't work in VR.
Yeah.
Right. And Apple is just out of touch. Like they always have been. And they needed to see that, hey, normals would not spend $3,500 on your ridiculous device that as soon as it came out. And let me be clear. I so love that Apple released the Vision Pro. You know why? Because as soon as they did, Meta picked it up, looked at it, and went, okay, guys, go to work. And within 6 months, they now have all the features that the Meta Quest has.
Absolutely.
The Valve has. Yeah.
They lit a fire under them. And one of the things that I will credit PlayStation on is, for me personally, is that was my first foray into VR with the PSVR 1. As blurry as it was, as dizzy as I would get, I still give them a lot of credit, because let me tell you, that first time that I played that Astro Bot game and that shark game, that was a pretty cool experience. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And I remember, and again, that was what I could afford at the time. So for me, it was the best thing ever.
See,
you know what I'm
that's
saying?
another problem that you're describing there, right? What you're saying, you may not realize you're saying that, but what you're describing there, that is a very, very key point. I say this all the time, and people that know me hear me say it often. You get what you pay for. And uniquely in VR, you get what you pay for in a major way, because the difference between great, like life-changing experiences versus, oh my God, I'm gonna barf, is a couple of $100. If you like, a human wallet will always opt for the cheapest thing they can get, because screw that, I'm trying to save some money. If you cheap out on VR headset, you're almost assuring yourself like 100% that your first experience will be trash. Most people's first experiences was VR by way of putting their phones on their faces, which is the worst way to experience.
Or Labo.
The worst. Or Labo, right?
Yep.
And a little techiness here, because we're on the tech show. You need at least 80 frames per second per eye without it feeling nauseating.
You want to know a true story? You want to hear a true story? Every kid that wore the Labo is wearing glasses today. I just like
that.
But
that is not a true story. But hear me. You need, and the tech guys among us will understand what I'm saying. You need 80 frames per eye. Any game you play, sir, have you gotten easily 80 frames per second? Does your console play games easily at 80 frames per second?
I thought that the PSVR 2, and I don't remember the tech specs in it, but I thought it was running 120, no? Or something that.
No. What it does is it gives you those optics. Those lenses can go up to that level, kind of like a monitor being able to go up to 144 frames.
Gotcha.
Doesn't mean the engine that you're using to drive it is powerful enough to get you all of the 144 hertz, right?
That's true.
It's the same thing. So although it's on your face, it's still using the same rendering pipeline, the same thing. Imagine having two monitors side by side, and each of them need to hit 80 frames at the same time consistently for you not to barf. Right?
Yeah. Now,
what does that mean? That means the power behind it to run whatever game you're running has to be effing substantial. And most machines can't do that.
No, absolutely. But I will, again, being a PSVR 2 user, it is a very good experience. I'm not going to lie to you.
No, don't get me wrong. Let me be clear here. I am not saying that the experience was hampered. I'm saying that that's the reason why when most people cheap out, you get a bad experience, because when you cheap out, you get hardware that can't run the device the way it should be run.
Right.
And then you go, oh, it's trash. Right. The big reason why whenever a flat game goes to VR, it takes a big like performance hit, or it takes a big, like the quality doesn't look as good, is because you can't run it with ray tracing and all this other stuff at 80 frames per second per monitor, which is each eye.
Right.
If you think of it logically like that, it makes sense. That's why it takes a big hit. That's why it's taken them such a long time for them to really optimize the games to where it looks simplistic, but it's still very performant. So it's running at 80 frames per second. And to their credit, Sony did a great job in that route.
Right, but this is and this is the last thing I'll tell you, okay, so that we can wrap up the show soon. I think that VR, just as a viable thing for gaming, it has so many challenges, dude, that it needs to overcome. You're talking about how much is the headset? You're talking about, do you need a powerful device to run it? You're talking about the user wearing something on their head. You're talking about people that may not be comfortable and be claustrophobic. You're talking about VR motion sickness. You're talking about so many things that is just so unfortunate that this experience needs to, so many hurdles it needs to jump before someone wants to give it a chance. That's the reason why I think it hasn't become more mainstream, because if they could just figure out a way just to have more people try it, I think that maybe one day Meta will get there where they figure it out, where maybe it's just, a pair of shades that you put on or something, that it's just it just becomes a no-brainer. You see what I'm saying?
So do you know where I think the future lies? The future lies in streaming it to the glasses. If everything has to be rendered locally, it makes everything heavy and and the battery won't last long. They need, in my humble opinion, they need to spend a lot more time focusing their energy on optimizing the bandwidth of the device so that you can get like streaming services. Like one day, I don't know, Game Pass will have a VR section that streams it directly to your screen, and it's not a flat game, it's a proper VR game, but not rendered locally, and it's so performant that you don't see the difference. That's the way you get just glasses, because all that performance is heavy, right? Your PC can't run 2 monitors at 80 frames per second, but you expect this lightweight glasses thing to be able to do that. It's not easy. Here's a quick example. Most of the VR headsets you see in this list I'm showing you here are still being used today. I've had most of them. I've owned the HTC Vive. I now own a Quest 3. I used to own a Quest 2. I own a Valve Index. I never owned a Rift S, but I own the original Rift. It's still on this list.
I don't know what 9%. A Windows mixed reality is. What is that? I've never heard of that.
That's a bunch of different headsets that Microsoft brought, assisted various third parties to make. To like Samsung had one, HP had one, and what they basically did was it would bring relatively good quality VR at a much lesser price, because all they did was just make the hardware and it would tie into Windows's mixed reality portal. The problem there was it started busted, and by the time it wasn't busted anymore, nobody cared.
So now the Xbox one is probably in that mix there, but let me give you. I was gonna make a point.
Oh,
okay.
March 2016, right? Imagine if I tell you I'm using a game console today that released in March 2016, right? Think about it. March 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. That is 8 years ago, right? The oldest device that we make fun of all the time is the Abacus, and that's 7 years old. The Oculus Rift has 9% of the market, or is it? No, now it's 4. I think it's 4. Yeah, now it's 4% of the market. But that was the first real consumer grade headset ever released, and it still has a substantial percent of the small market. They don't move the ball forward because it's a very small niche market, right? So if you show up and you want to be $4,000, or you want to be a walled garden that nobody else can use besides you, you will not thrive. These guys were doomed to fail from jump, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that makes sense. What you're saying makes sense. I just want to say that I appreciate the slander going on in the chat. Okay, I don't know if you've been seeing this, but we got Flood going back and forth with DLSS versus FSR.
Of course he is. The Penguins have to represent. They don't get any respect in the gaming street, so they have to come here and be slanderous. We understand.
I appreciate it. I've been laughing here at the side. But
but you know what I will say though? One thing I will say real quick, Flood, if you're gonna use DLSS and you're gonna make acronyms out of it, make it match the DLS and S. Vanilla Ice Dancer. That doesn't even makes any sense.
Come on. No, because I think that what they're doing is that they're trying to diss each upscaler with like the worst possible thing. So like, for example,
at least DLSS call it, I don't know, dumb loser slipping slander. I don't know, something that makes sense.
Look, all I know, DLSS definitely is Pamela Anderson, and FSR is Honey Boo Boo's mom. That's all I gotta say about that. Man. Okay, so right. No, but hey man, I like FSR and fluid motion frames on these handhelds, so I shouldn't be talking.
Yes, you see on the handhelds, DLSS is life. I mean, FSR is life. Of
course, yeah.
It really traverses that divide for you. So no slander to DLSS.
No, for sure. FSR. I mean, yeah. I'll join in on the fun there, but don't mess with FSR on the hand.
There you go. Now my man Umbra knows how it's done. FSR equals funky stripper robs. Funky stripper robes.
There you go. Well, Kay.
Hold on. We're not done yet.
Oh, we're not?
I forgot to read one slanderous message, and I actually think you should read this one.
Go ahead. All right. MJ Dark with 199 before we step out of here. John's Rag Ally run out of battery. Sir, I wish I was, but you know what? With the ROG Ally X,
fell out.
Sir, with the ROG Ally X, that's a thing of the past. So, what's this called?
Please.
Sir, I don't know.
What's it gonna last? 2 weeks? Get out of here, please.
I don't know. Reports coming in that this thing's gonna outdo the Steam Deck OLED, but we're still nobody knows. We gotta wait. We gotta wait. So, Kay, that's a wrap on episode 40, man. I can't believe it. 40 episodes, man.
40 episodes. Yep.
It's unbelievable. It really is. Kay, let the good folks know where you're going to be on the rest of the week. Let them know about the great show you had with Don Otaku this past weekend, and anything else you want to plug, man.
So first and foremost, thanks all the fine people who joined us. I think at our height, we're still small, growing channel. At our height, we had about 115 or so people watching between Twitter and YouTube. Thank y'all so much for just hanging out with us, talking tech. Moving forward, if you have any questions, you want us to talk about any specific topics, you know where to find us. We're in them Twitter streets. You can even email us. You can find the email information on the YouTube channel. We here to work with the community. We want to learn and we want to teach. So thank you guys so much for being here. You can find me, K Asante, TK Asante, on all the places we communicate. Anywhere there's a browser and there's a social media network or a console, you most likely will find me. You can also find me on Wednesdays with the one and only Mr. Boomstick and friends. I'll be there this Wednesday as well, hanging out, talking that talk. He always has great, interesting conversations for us. So we're going to be having fun there. And then, of course, Saturday on the Gaming Circle podcast. And in the meantime, if you need to see more from us, we are so excited. We're in the background. We're churning that butter. What we're doing is we're adding more content to the gamingcircle.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a small site, but it's slowly growing.
Show us off, man. Show us off.
I will definitely do that. Let's see. I think I want more people to come to the site. Come check us out. It's a small growing site. We're going to change it up, make it clean, make it work better. You go to the blog, you read some of the new stuff that happened. Maybe you read the one from the one John Wolf that put a tear in my eye today after reading it. It was beautiful, man. I enjoyed it.
Those are man tears.
A lot more. Man tears, man. Man tears. You will see a lot more from us during the week. I'm trying to fill this stuff with interesting conversations that we ourselves may not be talking about on the shows. Trying to get you some more information, more interesting things that you may not necessarily get from us during the week. So come check us out there. You can obviously contact us as well. You can learn a little bit more about us on our pages. And look, isn't he handsome with the suit
hey, man.
and the tie?
I had to put on my best face, for the blog, man. Come on.
Indeed. So yes, and by the way, when you get there, you can follow the Twitter handle for the Gaming Circle. You can go to the YouTube channel or this right here, and I'm gonna get an update icon for that. That is our Discord. You click on that, you can join our Discord. You can definitely do that as well. We appreciate all the ways you guys follow and support us. It is always wonderful. We appreciate the channel members who are always in here showing us support. We have great supporters, great community members. Like last week, as John Wolf was saying, the wonderful Don Otaku lent his time to us. Go check him out. Go check out his stuff. He's a rising star in these here waters, and I hope more people get to hear what his takes are and his views. If you like Nintendo, boy, you are not going to be disappointed with the great Don Otaku.
Oh, so, yeah.
How about you, Mr. John Wolf? Anywhere we can find you this week talking that talk?
No, just on Twitter, X, and of course in our DM, but nobody gets to see that. But for sure, I'll be in the Discord. You'll be seeing more little blogs and little stuff that we'll be doing on the website. And definitely, guys, hit me up on Twitter. That's the place to find me, or John Wolf across all the platforms. I own them all. I'm lucky enough.
John, I believe that public flogging is always appreciated, and public flogging keeps us accountable. I want to see a review of the ROG Ally X once it hits your hands, sir. You have been talking a big game. Big game. And that thing is coming out. And I want to see all your thoughts. Whether you do a video or you write it up or whatever, I want the community to get that full-throated pause.
Hey, come on now. But
process from the one John Wolf.
Definitely. That I'll take you up on that challenge. And guys, whether we've kind of morphed this show in the 40 episodes that we're now on, 40 plus, because we have beta episodes that you can find. You'll see that we
nobody should watch.
Well, no, I mean, it was the early days. We were trying things out, but we've kind of transitioned now to where we were kind of like PC focused only. Now we're like tech focused. Hence why we're constantly talking about handhelds, processors, PC, all that good stuff, right? So VR like today. But the thing is that what I want to say is this: whether you're excited about the ROG Ally, the One X player, which just I think MJ Dark received one today that I'm looking forward to what he posts
Mm-hmm.
on it, or any of the other plethoras of devices out there. Come and hang out with us. Talk about why you like the device that you rock. Talk about what things you don't like about it. Because the community that we're trying to build here is one that, whatever your opinion is on said subject or company or game or whatever the case may be, we want to hear it, because that's how we learn and that's how we grow. And the thing is that, again, I want to thank everybody that was here tonight, because you guys have made this show 40 episodes in a success for me and Kay. I remember listening in the early days. I was like, oh, Kay, I mean, like are we really going to be able to keep up with like the PC talk on a weekly basis? And I'm so glad that we did it, and I'm so glad that we're here. We committed to it. We meet on Mondays, and even though that we may be sick or on the shelf, we pick up for each other. And let me tell you, it's been very rewarding for myself, and we've met a bunch of great people on here. So guys, keep on doing your thing. We really appreciate your support. And Kay, with that said, unless you got something else to say, until next week.
We out.